Please do make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. They say a wedding is supposed to be the happiest day of your life. Mine was supposed to be filled with love, laughter, and the promise of a new beginning. But as the music faded, the guests danced, and envelopes of gift money piled high on the table beside me, I noticed something off. My parents weren't smiling with pride. Their eyes weren't on me, their daughter in a white gown. No, my mother's gaze kept darting to the envelopes. My father's hand twitched every time someone dropped another gift into the box. And then, I saw it, the quick glance they shared with my sister, the smirk that spread across her lips, and the moment my heart sank. I should have been celebrating. But instead, I realized, the people who raised me weren't here to bless me. They were here to steal from me. And if it weren't for my husband, they would have gotten away with it. They say your wedding day is the most magical day of your life. For me, it was the day I stood in the spotlight, wearing the dress I had dreamed about since I was a girl, surrounded by flowers, music, and people who had come to celebrate love. But magic has a way of twisting when envy and greed slip into the picture. As I glanced at the gift table, a glittering chest filled with envelopes from generous guests, I noticed my parents weren't watching me, their newly married daughter. No. Their eyes were fixed on that chest, as though it held their salvation. And when my sister's lips curled into a sly smile, I realized the truth. They weren't here for me. They were here for what they thought belonged to them. What they didn't know, however, was that the man I married wasn't just my partner in love. He was about to become my shield, and their reckoning. They say your wedding day is the happiest day of your life. For me, it was supposed to be the day I finally felt celebrated, not compared, not ignored, not treated as less than my perfect sister. But as the guests danced, and the envelopes of gift money piled higher and higher inside the decorated chest, I realized my parents weren't watching me at all. Their eyes stayed glued to that box, and when my sister smirked at them across the room, I knew something was wrong. It hit me like ice water down my back. They weren't here to bless me. They were here to rob me. But what they didn't know, what they could never have expected, was that the man I married had been watching too. And he wasn't about to let them get away with it. The bells rang, the guests rose, and my heart thundered as I walked down the aisle. James stood at the altar, waiting, his smile steady and warm. For one beautiful moment, I forgot everyone else existed. Then my eyes shifted to the front pew. My mother sat with her chin lifted, smiling too widely, her eyes sharp. My father's gaze wasn't on me, it was fixed behind me. I followed his line of sight and found it, the gift chest. A gleaming wooden box wrapped in ribbons, already stuffed with envelopes. And then Elaine, my sister, my bridesmaid, the golden child. She wasn't smiling with pride. She smirked. Her gaze flicked from the chest to my parents. That pit in my stomach, it was back. I brushed it off. Not today. They wouldn't dare. But deep down, I knew. At the reception, the feeling grew worse. Guests laughed, music played, glasses clinked, and yet my parents whispered with Elaine, their bodies angled toward the gift chest. I caught my father brushing his hand over the lid when he thought no one was looking. James noticed too. His hand tightened over mine. "Everything okay?" he asked softly. I forced a smile. "I think so." But when the photographer pulled us aside, I caught it, my father hovering by the chest, my mother glancing around nervously, Elaine grinning like a thief. James kissed my cheek for the camera and whispered, "Don't worry, love. I won't let them take what's yours." I exhaled, shaken. He had seen it too. The speeches were over, the cake had been cut, and the night stretched on with dancing. Guests mingled happily, but my eyes never strayed far from that chest. Then I saw it. My parents moved together, Elaine trailing behind them, toward the chest. My father bent slightly, pretending to examine the decorations. My mother's hand reached fast. But James was faster. He appeared out of nowhere, tall and calm, blocking their path with his glass raised. "Beautiful box, isn't it?" His voice was pleasant, but his eyes were sharp. I made sure it was locked before the ceremony. "Only the bride and I have the key." My father's hand froze mid-air. My mother gave a brittle laugh. "Oh, we were just admiring it." Elaine chimed in, "Yes, it's so elegant. Almost looks expensive." James smiled politely but didn't move. "It's not the box that's valuable. It's what's inside. That's why I'll be keeping a close eye on it." Their faces stiffened. My father cleared his throat and muttered something about getting more champagne. They slinked away, but I could feel the heat of their resentment. My heart pounded. I leaned toward James. "You saw that, right? You saw what they were trying to do." "I saw everything," he murmured, his jaw set. "And trust me, they'll try again. But this time, I'll be ready." It happened later, when most of the guests were too busy dancing or drunk to notice. James had excused himself, telling me softly to trust him. I watched as my parents and Elaine circled the chest again, their eyes gleaming with greed. My father reached into his jacket, pulling out a small tool. My breath caught, they were actually trying to pick the lock. Elaine giggled, whispering, "Hurry, before anyone sees." But someone had seen. James stepped out from the shadows. Only this time, he wasn't alone. The wedding videographer followed him, camera rolling. "Looking for something?" James's voice cut through the music. My parents froze. My mother's face drained of color. My father dropped the tool with a clatter. Elaine's smirk vanished. James's arm slipped protectively around my shoulders as the videographer zoomed in. "You know," he continued coolly, "weddings are such beautiful occasions. It's heartbreaking when someone tries to turn them into a crime scene. Good thing we'll have this moment recorded forever." Gasps spread as nearby guests turned, realizing what was happening. My parents stammered excuses. Elaine tried to laugh it off. But the evidence was clear on film, in front of everyone. I stood there, shaking, torn between rage and heartbreak. My parents hadn't come to celebrate me. They came to rob me for her. James didn't humiliate them further at the reception. He only told the videographer quietly, "Save that footage." Then, looking at my parents, he added, "Leave now, before you destroy what little dignity you have left." They slunk out, Elaine trailing behind them, her perfect hair bouncing with every angry step. Guests whispered in disbelief. Some shook their heads. Others came to me, offering quiet comfort. Later that night, James and I sat together, the chest between us. He rested his hand over mine. "I told you I wouldn't let them take what's yours." Tears burned my eyes. Not because of the money, but because for once in my life someone had chosen me. Protected me. That night, as my parents drove home empty-handed and furious, I realized something. The gift wasn't the envelopes or the money. The gift was knowing I had finally broken free from their grip. Weeks later, my parents tried to twist the story, claiming James had humiliated them unfairly. But when the footage surfaced, my father with the lockpick in hand, my mother reaching, Elaine urging them on, they had no defense. Their reputation shattered. Elaine's smugness dissolved. And me. I finally stopped being the overlooked daughter. Because on my wedding day, I didn't just gain a husband, I gained someone who proved, in front of everyone, that I was worth protecting. And that was the happiest ending of all.